Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. We'll get started in just a moment. We're just waiting for people to jump on here tonight. Thank you for joining us. Great. I see a number of people jumping on. Fantastic. Welcome to tonight's DCM Foundation webinar, Support for Your DCM Journey. We will talk about DCM Foundation's programs and services and provide some helpful advice. Again, thank you for joining. We will get rolling here in just a second. We have more people joining. All participant microphones are on mute upon joining. And if you have any questions, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. For most people, I think it's at the bottom. Our mission is to provide hope and support to DCM patients and their family members through research, advocacy, and education. And these webinars are just a piece of what we provide. We also have monthly newsletters and a whole bunch of resources on our website. And we'll go over some of the additional programs and services we're offering. Next. Again, just a reminder, please enter your questions into the Q&A feature of Zoom at any time. We will have a Q&A session following tonight's presentation, and all microphones are on mute so we can hear tonight's presenters. Next. First, we're going to run a quick poll to see who's attending tonight's webinar. Are you a DCM patient, a family member or friend, an industry professional, or a medical professional? We'll take just a couple seconds here. Great, if we could share that poll. Great, mostly DCM patients and family members, which is fantastic. I think you'll get a lot out of tonight's webinar. So glad you could join us tonight. So let's keep rolling. And I do want to give a shout out to Heather behind the scenes, who's helping us with our Zoom tonight. Next slide. Great. Tonight's webinar presenters are Greg Roof. Many of you may know of Greg. He's the Executive Director and Board President for the DCM Foundation. We are so thrilled to have with us tonight Dr. Wendy Flowers, a retired clinical psychologist, and I'm Jayanne Rock, Director of Information and Education for the DCM Foundation. Next. First, I just want to take a quick minute to talk about the DCM Foundation's support and commitment to DCM patients and their family members. We have recommitted ourselves to helping support DCM patients and their family members. This is an area we'll be growing in 2023 and beyond. And we're going to be highlighting some of the great programs and resources that we are building out in this area specifically to help support patients and their families. And we're going to be offering many more programs, and we want to engage many more DCM patients and their family members. So you'll learn a lot more about that tonight. So next slide. First, I just want to make a mention. We know this can be a difficult disease. Greg Roof and I talk to DCM patients almost weekly, and we hear the stories, and we know this can be a difficult disease. And we are very sorry if you or your loved one has DCM. However, we're here to provide ideas tonight on how to live as well as you can with DCM, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And we're thrilled that Dr. Wendy Flowers and Greg Roof are here to help support you, offer advice, and answer your questions tonight. We will also share some new DCM support resources and programs to help you better navigate your DCM journey. Next. So a little more about tonight's presenters. Greg was diagnosed with DCM in 2014 and required an ICD. Through genetic testing, it was then revealed he had 3 mutations responsible for his DCM, and his relatives were then tested, and a number of them were found to also carry genetic mutations that can cause DCM. Greg retired from his work as a business entrepreneur, and in 2017 launched the DCM Foundation to bring education, hope, and resources to DCM patients and their families. After a period of worsening heart failure, on July 15th, 2021, Greg had a successful heart transplant, and we're so glad that he did because he's really leading the DCM Foundation with vigor. We're thrilled also to have with us Dr. Flowers. Dr. Flowers received her bachelor's from Connecticut College, her master's degree from the University of Connecticut, and her doctorate in psychology from The Ohio State University. Over the course of her 30-year career as a developmental and clinical psychologist, she worked in a variety of settings treating individuals of all ages, and her work includes a variety of individual and group therapies, trauma treatments, and clinical staff supervision and training. When her daughter was diagnosed with DCM in 2018, Wendy turned to the DCM Foundation for support, information, and guidance. And we are so thankful she currently volunteers as a co-facilitator for the DCM patient and family support groups. Next slide. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Dr. Wendy Flowers. Wendy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jan. Hi, everybody. I am really thrilled to be part of the DCM community and glad to be here tonight. Our program this evening is focused on living well with DCM, but we thought it was important to spend about the first 5 minutes talking about the emotional challenges that patients and families go through, especially in the beginning. In my years of clinical practice and in my own family and friendship circle, I've seen people with all kinds of chronic conditions who go through the same feelings and phases that you're seeing on this slide that's up here now. The same process happens to people who have chronic physical illnesses, like some cancers, like rheumatoid arthritis, like autoimmune disorders, some mental conditions like post-traumatic stress, severe depression, seizure disorders, addictions, and life-altering accidents and injuries. Being diagnosed with DCM is traumatic for everyone concerned, patients and families, because life as you knew it or thought it would be has just changed. It's upsetting, it's hard to wrap our minds around, it can be overwhelming, especially in the beginning. And it can create a lot of conflicting feelings. You, like me, might have felt frightened, anxious, depressed in the beginning, and at the same time, relieved that there is help to be found, there are experts to turn to, there's hope that treatments will work. Confusion is very common because among patients and family members, because DCM is so unpredictable and variable. The symptom patterns vary person to person and within an individual from day to day or even the time of day. Patients have different reactions to the different heart medications. Some have little or no trouble. Some people have a lot of fatigue, some have sleep disruption. And then there are other side effects people deal with, like headaches or GI problems. There's no standard time frame for progression of DCM, which is terribly frustrating. While there is a known pattern or series of stages that some of the cardiologists have talked about in previous webinars here, no one can tell you or your family what's going to happen. We've learned that some patients have gone decades without any significant changes. Some patients have progressed quickly towards needing a transplant, like Greg, who's going to share his success story in just a few minutes. And most patients seem to see their symptoms improve with treatment. A final point of confusion is who else in the family might have DCM or be carrying the genes, who else might need treatment or be tested. How do we do that? Who do we contact? Where do we go? For both patients and families, there's a reevaluation of roles and goals that comes about naturally because the patient's body just isn't letting them do what they used to be able to do, or they're not sure yet what they can do safely. Parents with children and teens may need to ask for help when they've been used to handling so much on their own. Grandparents, aunts and uncles may not have the same energy that they used to have, that they may need to be careful about too much exertion or being exposed to too much heat or the sun. People often need to make changes in their work schedules or their environment in order to manage their condition. And yet at the same time, we talk about DCM being an invisible disability, that because you don't look different on the outside, it can be hard for family members or friends or coworkers who don't know much about this condition to really comprehend what patients and families are going through and to understand it's not going to just go away. That's why we love for them to come and learn from the information that's on the foundation website. To get to this goal of acceptance and peace as patients and family members, we really all need to change the expectations that we have for ourselves. We need to maximize our own self-care. This calls often for simplifying the number of obligations that we have, letting go of what's not so important, delegating tasks to other people, asking for help, which may not be comfortable at first, and resting a lot, pacing yourself, taking breaks, conserve your energy, nap if you can, doing things that make you happy. And whether you are a patient or a family member, it's important to find a way to get comfortable with not knowing what's going to happen down the road. But really, isn't this true of life in general? True for all of us? So please get support, give yourself a lot of grace and time, and eventually you'll find your way to make DCM a part of your life, but it will no longer define you. It will just become a part of your beautiful unfolding life story. Now, Greg is going to share his story of how to live happily and successfully with DCM. Greg?
Thanks, Wendy. That was great. And thanks, Jay and Heather behind the scenes. What I'm going to do in the next 6 or 7 slides is talk about kind of my story and what I did to cope with the disease. And it really focuses on what you can control. We'll talk about that, not on what you can't control or cannot control, but what you can control. And again, I'm going to give you my thoughts, and then on most of the slides, Wendy's going to come in and kind of give, because my thoughts are my thoughts. That's how I handle it. It may not be appropriate for the rest of you. So Wendy's going to give a perspective from a clinical psychologist that dealt with this for many, many years on different ways that you potentially could deal with this. So next slide, please. I think living well with dilated cardiomyopathy and with any disease or any situation, your mindset is the key. You can't control your DCM diagnosis, right? You can't control the heart failure, but you can control what you do from there. I think that's really, really important. Again, we see mindset. We're going to see this over and over again. And the 5 areas that I'm going to talk about in the next few slides are making sure you get the right treatment. You're going to the right place and getting the right treatment. We're also going to talk about physical health, some tricks, some keys, some things that I did, and some keys that Wendy has to share about being as physically healthy as you can. Also, mental health. We're going to spend the slide talking about mental health and how important that is in, I think, everyone's journey, but especially someone with chronic illness. Also, spiritual health. I think you need to be right spiritually. We all need to be right to go through this journey. And then lastly, as I think you see in all the DCM Foundation's material, is that you always need to have hope. So a quick note before we go to the next slide. It's one thing I think each of us need to do, whether we have a disease or don't have a disease, is we need to make time every day to relax and focus and to think about those things, and especially as you now have DCM, you have a chronic illness, a loved one has this disease, make sure that you're focusing and thinking about each of the 5 above each and every day. Next slide, please. Again, something you can't control is getting the right treatment. We hear, it happened to me personally, we hear this, if not daily, at least weekly or several times a week, that the vast majority maybe of DCM patients were either undiagnosed or misdiagnosed, or they're being treated by, I call it the corner cardiologist. Could be respected cardiologist, could be someone in a respected practice. But the reality is most cardiologists, in my personal opinion, I don't think are equipped well to deal with dilated cardiomyopathy, heart failure, and especially genetic dilated cardiomyopathy if your DCM is caused by genetics. So we really encourage that, and we have a website tool that we've just created to help you in this, that Jan will talk about later through Medifine. We really encourage you go to a heart failure center. It's, how do you find a heart failure center? Really, almost probably any major university near you will probably have in their cardiology practice or unit a heart failure center. It's not as important, I don't think, to go to the perfect or the right cardiologist. It's more important to go to the right heart failure center to get treatment. Because as you progress in the disease, it really becomes a team fight with the heart failure nurse practitioner, the nurses, heart failure doctors, you could have electrophysiologists. So it's really, really important that you find the right team or find the right heart failure center. We talked about the website tool. And one thing, once you find the right place, the one thing that I stress, follow your doctor's, your healthcare team's advice and instructions. You do not know better. If you're having symptoms and you're feeling not the way you think you should because of a medication, because of whatever, certainly reach out to your healthcare team or your cardiologist. But in general, follow your doctor's advice and instructions. Those are my thoughts. Wendy, what can you add or tell me I'm crazy that I said?
Not at all, Greg. What I might add is that from listening to DCM patients, the doctors often seem to have a disconnect with their patients' emotions. They might be really excellent medically, helping you get the treatment you need, but we shouldn't count on them to be a good support system for emotions. So I think that's one thing. And to the point of finding a team that you can work with, in our daughter's situation, she was diagnosed at a transplant center out of state because she was trying to be an organ donor for her stepbrother, and then she was referred to a major heart center where there were some wonderful doctors, and then there were some that were going to be treating her directly, whom I would say as a parent and as a professional, they were pretty alarmist and almost rude. And so, our daughter felt that she couldn't work long-term with these people. And I supported her in that. We all did. But she found another team at another specialty center that has been just a beautiful fit. And the only other thing I would add, Greg, is to encourage people to find credible sources of information. And for that, I would really suggest making the DCM Foundation website your home base.
Great,
Okay,
great.
back to you.
Thank you, Wendy. Next slide, please. Again, focus on things you can control, your physical health. You know, you have the disease, it does affect your body. I've gone through it from healthy down to transplant and then back up. So I've sort of hit for the cycle, so to speak, with the disease so far. Maybe more to come, I hope not. Feeling great right now. But I think that you know, it's really, really important that, you know, I'm a fighter type of person. I'm a warrior type of person. And the way I look at this, and we talk about physical health, mental, spiritual, I look at it as a warrior. You're in a war against the disease, and you need to be as prepared as you can to fight the battle and win in the long run. So, and one of those really is about being physically healthy as you can. You know, one of the things that I think we all should do, but certainly if we have dilated cardiomyopathy, is eat as healthy as you can most meals, and don't overeat. I mean, really focus on maintaining a healthy weight. You know, it's really, really important that you maintain a healthy weight through the disease. And when I say most meals, I mean, a lot of people are saying, well, you got to eat, you know, cracked barley and wheat and sassafras seeds, you know, 8 times a day. Listen, the vast majority of us aren't going to do that. I'm saying, you know, eat 5 out of 6 meals, you know, or 8 out of 9 meals every second or third day. I love my pizza. I love chicken wings. But I love a fatty steak, but I don't do it that often. But I think if I had to live forever without that, I would just fall off the wagon, right? And start eating poorly all the time. So I think you do have to treat yourself, but look at most meals and don't overeat. The second thing that I really, and this is hugely here, you got a takeaway. This is a takeaway. Salt in heart failure is terrible. And especially if your disease progresses, you retain fluids. Salt is your enemy. So what I would do is, if you've been diagnosed, if you don't go to the store yourself or have someone shop with you, go with that person together or by yourself to the store one time and look at everything that you put in your cart. Before you put it in the cart, look at the label and look at the sodium percentage. You would be shocked. I can eat potato chips all day long and it can have less sodium than potentially 2 pieces of bread. But there is bread that's made that's not that expensive. One may have 15% in each slice. Take a sandwich, 30% of your salt intake, sodium intake from 2 pieces of bread. Some may have 5%, 10%. So look at every item one time, do it once, and you know what has high sodium, what has low sodium. And then you don't have to think about it that much anymore. But anything new, anything you put in your body, is sodium. If you go out to eat, that's that one meal that you're saying is a bad meal, because if you go out to eat, you're going to get a lot of sodium. Mm-hmm. Stay as physically fit and as active as you can. Again, consult your cardiologist. Everybody's situation, everybody's heart failure, place, the disease, whether you have arrhythmia issues or just muscle issues, talk to your cardiologist first. But after you do that, make sure you stay as physically fit and as active as you can. And also, if you have insurance and it will cover it, ask your cardiologist if they will prescribe cardiac rehab. I've been through it twice. They really show you how, and they monitor you. They show you how you can exercise safely in a very healthy manner. Highly recommend cardiac rehab. And then the last thing, which is really, really important with dilated cardiomyopathy, with heart disease, and I think Wendy hit on this before, is you've got to become good at managing your energy consumption. You get a lot more tired, and potentially as the disease progresses, you can become more and more tired. So it's really important, if you have something you really want to do, you know, with the family, or it's important in the evening, make sure you try to stay, physically quiet, take a nap, do the things that you can do to conserve energy for that big event the next day, for that benefit easy, because energy consumption is a challenge, and it's a real key of living as healthily as you can. Wendy, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I agree. And fatigue and exhaustion is one of the biggest issues that patients have talked about in the support groups, especially fatigue during the first year, and then, as you mentioned, as the disease progresses. And the only other thing I'd add, Greg, would be to be easy on yourself and recognize that you are going through, quite an emotional adjustment as well as a physical one. You are changing your routines possibly at home and work. You might be dealing with medications that are causing fatigue and other unpleasant side effects. Most patients have gone through some surgery to implant devices. And so just be easy on yourself and take all of this advice, but don't be self-critical about what you can't do right now. Back to you, Greg.
Thanks so much, Wendy. Next slide, please. So we sort of position this slide in between physical and mental health. That's our next slide. I'll give it away. And I just saw this the other day, and I thought this was really cool and really appropriate. And you say, I know I'm going to get through it. I'm just tired of going through it. And if you have dilated cardiomyopathy, almost no matter how long, but if you've had it for years, you're going to get through it, and hopefully, be transplanted and be healthy. Again, I transplanted 18 months ago, but you get tired of being tired. And so these are real feelings. These are things that a lot of you are probably thinking. And I just kind of wanted to recognize that, and along with Wendy's comments before we go to the next slide. And next slide, please, Heather. Again, things you can't control, your mental health. It's very, very important that you be at peace and as happy as you can. I do a little thing like, let's say you have dilated cardiomyopathy and your physical, mental, spiritual being and the discomfort is here. It's there. It's real. It's tired. You may have some pain. You may have some angst. You may have some questions about life in general. But fighting the physical disease, I think, is sort of down here. And from a scale of negativity, if you don't have peace and acceptance, when you're fighting disease, you're going to be way up here, because your anxiety, your fears, all these things make fighting this disease so much worse. So I firmly believe that in order to fight this disease effectively, you have to work very, very hard, especially on your mental health, to get down here to where you're not fighting mentally, but everything's just focused on the physical disease. So I think that's great. So what can you do? Again, concentrate on what you can do. Everyone has limitations, and have a winning attitude and stay positive. So here's a little trick I used to do. Like, I hear a lot from people like, man, it's hard walking up the stairs. Hey, and I know it is. And some days it's harder than others. Just flip that around and look at it as, man, today was a good day. I was able to get to the top of the stairs without stopping or having to slow down. Focus on what you can do, the positive, the achievements. You probably are going to be doing less than you used to be able to do, but you still can be productive. You still can be happy. Focus on those things. The other thing that I see, and I did it, as you're fighting the disease, seek out professional help. It is so important. Life is hard to get through, even without diseases, without death, without very trying situations. But when you're in a trying situation like this, I really think it's very risky for you to go it on your own. If you don't have health insurance that pays for it, and that's an issue, you can find support groups and resources we have in the DCM Foundation. You can see them online. Happy to reach out about other support groups. Jane will talk about that on our website, where that resource section is located. But get help, either through a professional, and if you have insurance, can afford it, I highly recommend that, and finding support groups, people that are in a similar situation to you. That's really, really important. Wendy talked about this before also, about getting comfortable with not knowing. When we put the website together, let's say 2019, 2020, Dr. Kathy Gerspel, which may be on, did most of the website and is a noted cardiologist in heart failure transplant. And the one thing I learned, because the question I always had is, what's my progression? What's my path of disease? And the one thing that became very clear in working with Kathy on putting the website together is that there are no two paths that are the same. Even in genetic cardiomyopathy, the docs will say, well, if you have a lamin A, which our family does, it happens early onset and it does this and does that. Well, in our family, that's not true. So I think the thing is we don't know the progression of our lives. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You especially don't know that with DCM. So really focus on getting comfortable with not knowing what the next day, what the next year holds. But also I think about leveraging tools like mindfulness activities to stay in the moment. I used to daydream before I would take a nap, as I was going to take a nap, about positive things, the beach, family. I used to focus focusing on pleasurable, positive things to try to keep my mind up going through this disease. Wendy, what else do you have?
Yeah, I love all those suggestions, Greg. I can tell you from decades in private practice that the people who seek help voluntarily are the healthiest members of the family in terms of their mental health, because they are people who have the motivation and the courage and the strength to want to make changes and to make those changes and make things better in their life. And so, I would say for everyone who's listening to this webinar, by virtue of their seeking out this information, they're already showing a lot of resilience and willingness to heal. And healing doesn't necessarily mean cure, but healing can mean coming to peace and acceptance with what your situation is. Everything that you've talked about on this slide really, goes to strengthening a person's coping skills and helping them gain what we call mastery over living with this condition. Again, it becomes part of your life, but it doesn't define you. And I liked that you brought up mindfulness. I think it's very, very important for anyone recovering from any kind of trauma to build in daily quiet time and activities that are calming. And that looks different for each and every individual. It might mean spiritual reading. It might mean some form of meditation or prayer, or reflecting on positives in their life, like you were explaining with your daydreaming, creating affirmations, thinking about gratitude. Gratitude really brings us into a realm of joy. And so that's any kind of gratitude practice, whether that is thinking about what makes you grateful or what you're grateful for in your life today, in your present life, journaling, making lists, drawing, painting, anything that is expressive of your gratitude is going to bring you more joy. And then any kind of creative activity that you can do is a powerful practice to take your mind away from problems. This doesn't happen overnight either. There is a learning curve to feeling better and to coming to this kind of peace and acceptance that we're talking about. But it will happen if you do try. And I think Jayanne put in the resources, a wonderful app. If you're looking for a meditation tool, either instrumental or voice or nature sounds, it's called Insight Timer. And it has thousands of resources. Okay, back to you, Greg.
Thank you. Thanks, Wendy. Next slide, please. Again, I think spiritual health is really, really important in staying as spiritually strong as you can. Everybody has different beliefs. And I believe whatever your belief is that as you're going through a chronic illness and disease like this, that is really, really important to tap into your spiritual health and be as strong and as healthy as you can with this. So as you look for support, as you look for resources, you should also go to your religious organization, church, synagogue, mosque, whatever it might be, or if you have other spiritual practices. Almost all religious and spiritual organizations will have people within them that will help you. And I think that's really, really important. And also connecting with somebody that believes like you do spiritually, I think can also be, could add to the mix of health and mental uplifting. I also, something else I think about this is really, when you have a chronic illness, and I mean, when you prick your finger, all you can think about is the pain in your finger, right? The world collapses upon you. And I think that's sort of, what happens in depression and different things. So the world just squeezes in on you. So I think it's really, really important as you're going through this, that, you do your prayer, you do your meditation, but it's really, really important, I think, to try to expand yourself, force yourself to think about others' needs, volunteering, support. Maybe other people with a disease or this disease. Maybe you're lying in bed and you're tired and it's the evening, but you can text somebody and say, hey, how you doing? It's amazing. One, it's the right thing to do, and helping others is how we all should live our lives. But two, it actually has this tremendous feeling where it takes the focus off of your tiredness or your pain or your situation and actually makes you feel a lot better. So I think it's really, really important, even with your illness, to think of other needs and do whatever you can to volunteer and support other needs. And something that I sort of did, and talk about sort of collapsing down, I put a document together. We're not going to share it this evening, but it's called Perspective. And it's about understanding my spec role, my lifespan, whether it's 50 years or 100 years or 20 years or max 120, compared to the universe, the size, the vastness, the length of it. I think to really understand your place in the universe, again, expanding from just what's right around here and understanding the bigness and the bigger picture of everything really helped me, I think, mentally, spiritually in this battle. Wendy, what are your thoughts here?
Oh, Greg, I'm thinking about as people overcome these challenges, they make us stronger, bigger, wiser, more expanded people, and we're able to help others in ways that we could never have conceived of before having DCM. I'm thinking about some examples. I'm thinking about you, Greg, starting the foundation in 2017. I'm thinking about Tina McGinnis, one of our support group members, who started up this volunteer emotional support program in California at a major heart center and some clinics. And she's been given privileges that have never been done in that hospital system before. I'm thinking about Deborah Armstrong, another support group member who manages 4 different heart conditions. She was diagnosed with DCM on top of the other 3 2 years ago. She needs 2 knee replacements, is having trouble with mobility. And she started a nonprofit organization for fostering little dogs. they're up and running. And we see her dogs on the screen during the support group sometimes. I'm thinking about Sarah Schaff, our daughter, and Millie Clarkson, both support group members who have volunteered to facilitate the DCM support groups on Zoom. And Andrea Gavin, another support group member who volunteers on the DCM Foundation board, and how she and other people I talked with are very present in other online social media groups where they are reaching out and sharing their experiences with others. So this expansion is actually bringing a lot more healing and light into the world in ways that none of these people planned for or expected.
No,
That's a beautiful thing. Back to you.
that's great. And one last comment. I mean, Wendy, thank you and your daughter, Sarah, and all the people you've mentioned. Too numerous to mention of people that have helped the DCM Foundation and contribute. And we are so appreciative of all the things that everybody does. And we thank each one of you. I wish we could name everybody. We can't. But thank you so much. Next slide, please. Again, remain hopeful, always have hope. Don't give in and don't give up. Always fight the good fight. And there are bad days. When you have bad days, realize that you will have better days. That's really, really important. Again, my perspective in this sort of warrior, fighter type of human being that I am. The way I look at this is focus plus discipline plus determination equals success. This is a battle that you're fighting, and it's something that you want to execute all three of those on a continual basis if you can. Again, focus on winning this battle. I mean, I remember when I was in the hospital for waiting for my transplant, I just kept saying, let's get to the other side. Let's just get to the other side. Let's just get to the other side, which meant let's win this thing. Let's win this thing. Find and use your own mental support aids. You all might do different things. I think positive daydreaming, mindfulness exercises, meditation, prayer. These are important. It's important you take time each day for them. And also, do what inspires you and makes you feel empowered. And obviously, as what he's talking about, all the wonderful the people have had this disease and volunteered and helped us and other organizations, other people, that really gives you an empowerment with a disease that's trying to take that power away from you. And lastly, help is on the way. We talk with from academic researchers to very small early stage biopharma to multi-billion-dollar biopharmas. There are a lot of people looking for cures for dilated cardiomyopathy, the disease and the genes that affect it. Help is on the way. Hang in there and please, please, please stay positive. Next slide, please. Again, as Jan mentioned earlier, one thing that we're going to focus on is helping more DCM patients in 2023. And Jan's going to tell us a little bit about that. So Jan.
Great. Thank you so much, Greg. And thank you, Wendy. We just so greatly appreciate everything you do for the foundation and all the great insight and advice you just provided. So let's talk briefly about how we are planning and executing on helping more DCM patients this year and going forward. Next slide. We have reorganized the DCM Foundation website. In case anyone's been there lately, you might have noticed it. We wanted to reorganize the navigation to make it easier to find what you're looking for. First and foremost, I would always recommend you can use the search box in the top right corner of our website to easily find content related to any search term. So make use of that as you wish. I would like to bring special attention to the new patient support and resources page. That is a tab now at the top of the website bar. And under that, you will find a number of resources, including a couple that are new. First is find a cardiomyopathy specialist. This is brand new, and it walks you through the use of a special tool that you can put your information in, and it will tell you of cardiomyopathy specialists within a certain radius of your address. And so you might want to check that out. I would like to also highlight our Healthy Together virtual program, which is going to be kicking off the next session starting on February 7th. I'll talk more about that in a minute, but you can also find that on the website. And we also have a page about patient support groups and resource links. There are a lot of support groups out there for people with cardiomyopathy in general, for people specifically with DCM. There are various Facebook groups and online Zoom support groups. What we've done is gather that information and put it together in one document. So you can go down and look through and see the kinds of groups that you may decide you want to join. There are also additional resource links there, so please check that out. Also, our insurance and financial resources page has been updated with additional links, so please do look at that as well. Next page.
And real quick, I want to thank Jan very, very much and Pam Long for really reorganizing the website, changing navigation. We realized it was a bit difficult to navigate. It's much, much easier to navigate. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Pam.
Yeah, Pam's a rock star. So thanks, Greg. And so, again, 2023 and beyond, the patient support programs that we're building out to solidify our commitment to helping more DCM patients and their loved ones. A little bit more about the Healthy Together program. The next session starts February 7th. We have 20 free seats available for qualified individuals. I will send additional information about all of these things in our follow-up email after tonight's webinar, along with the recording link. But meanwhile, you can find that on our website. If you just type Healthy Together in the search box, it'll bring up the information. We have virtual support programs, which we are going to be expanding this year. Stay tuned for more information about that. And again, huge thanks to Wendy and her daughter, Sarah, and Millie, who are running those and operating those for us. We couldn't do it without you. And we are looking forward to later this year building out a DCM buddy program, because we realize not everybody may be comfortable in jumping into a small support group right away with 8 other people, but we do know that DCM patients find great benefit in at least talking one-on-one with another DCM patient. And that's the DCM Buddy program that we will be building out probably the second half of this year. So stay tuned. Next. So we are at the Q&A portion. We don't have a lot of time, but I have a few questions that have come up. So Heather, if you could put Greg and Wendy back on the screen, that'd be great. Thank you. The first question is specific. What advice can you give to a DCM patient regarding applying for SSDI benefits? I don't have any experience in this area. Do either of you? So
oh, go ahead, Greg.
No, Wendy, I was going to say, Wendy, how about you? So go ahead, Wendy.
I have a little bit of experience, yes. I have been retired for a number of years, so the rules may be a little bit different, but really what they're looking for in benefits is that you cannot return to your previous job because of your condition, and you're unable to make modifications in that workplace or in another similar kind of job that you feel comfortable with. And they will ask for all kinds of documentation from your medical providers. They will very likely require psychological testing, which is the part that I was involved in a number of times. And they will require you to recertify often that you still need the benefits. So it's a process. I will also share the information that it's kind of commonly known that most people get denied the benefits first time around, and that you often have to apply 2 or 3 times in order to really get a thorough review.
Okay, excellent. Very helpful. Thank you.
And one quick addition to that, if you want more information, we do know a person that works closely with us that is on SSDI. So if you want to email whoever asked the question at info@dcmfoundation.org, we can put you in contact with that person. And also, if you are being treated at a major medical center, ask your doctor or nurse might be better, to see what kind of, most major hospitals will have people that can assist you and deal with that and answer questions in that area too. So.
And I would also add, don't be afraid to go to your local Social Security office and, take a number, wait till they call you and sit down and ask them what the process is. I've had to go there a few times to take care of matters for my parents. And when I got to an age where I needed to sign up for Medicare, and I found the staff very helpful, very patient in answering all kinds of questions. And it was so much easier to do that face to face.
Excellent. Thank you. And we have a DCM patient just commented, I received SSI benefits for 20 years. So that's interesting to know. Jamie commented, I have found substituting potassium for salt works great. Just watch how much you use or it can taste metallic. I have not tried that. Have you ever tried that, Greg?
No, I did take potassium pills for a bit, I believe, post-transplant. I've been on so many medications and supplements that the docs are giving you. I would recommend, though, clearing any supplement you take, clear with your healthcare team. Because of supplements, other drugs can have interactions with your heart failure medications.
Absolutely.
Or if you've been transplanted, your transplant medications. So I think that's great. And if it worked for you, that's wonderful. I would just caution people to make sure that you, anything that you put in your body other than just regular food, make sure you clear with your medical team.
Excellent, excellent advice. And someone just commented, Dash Salt Alternative brand was recommended by their DCM cardiologist. So that there's another answer for you. Do you recommend a DCM specialist for children? My daughter is 7 and has tested positive for the genetic mutation. She's had an appointment with a pediatrician, but not a specialist at this time.
Yeah. Go to Children's Cardiomyopathy Foundation. I believe it's ccf.org. Children's Cardiomyopathy Foundation. They are clearly the experts in dealing with children with cardiomyopathy. And I also believe on their website that they actually have a list of children's hospitals that are experts in dealing with cardiomyopathy in children. So Children's Cardiomyopathy Foundation, go there. They will be able to help you really well. They also offer assistance to families and things like that too. So great organization, been around. I think that's the best place that you can get help in that. Excellent.
I will also just add, Greg, this person absolutely agrees with your comments about they were actually warned against potassium, including warnings against salt alternatives that contain potassium. So that's very important that people do check with their doctor first. And Tina says, initially I was diagnosed by the, quote, best cardiologist in my area who had been seeing for mitral valve prolapse. After undergoing an echocardiogram, angiogram, Holter monitor, after all those were done, the electrophysiologist sent me to Cedars-Sinai, which has a DCM specialist. And then she actually found the DCM Foundation just by Googling all over the place. So she said, how do you approach the diagnosis? Like when you're newly diagnosed, where do you go for information and how do you find a good specialist?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Google search, obviously ask around, email us, contact us. We now have on the website, Jane is going to send the link after this. It's through Medifine, and you can type in DCM and it'll bring up in your geography. I live, Tina, I know where you live, in 150-mile radius or whatever, and they'll bring those people up. It's not a perfect resource, but it's a good resource. Again, understanding a really good cardiologist may be a really crummy DCM or heart failure specialist. There is a huge, huge difference. So don't look for a cardiologist, look for a heart failure center and heart failure specialists. That's really, really, really important. Medifine can help, Google search can help, type in your city or, heart failure specialist near me, right? Google, things like that. Medifine, again, that's really, 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 really important. But again, wonderful, great cardiologists. I do valves, I do this, I do that. Rarely is going to be someone that understands heart failure, dilated cardiomyopathy, especially genetic cardiomyopathy or dilated cardiomyopathy. Tina, thank you for the question. That's great insight.
Absolutely. Thank you. Sherry said, Greg, I love listening to you because I'm one who is always looking to wake up each day and fight. You can appreciate that. Daily workout routine. I'm very fit and capable, but since the diagnosis, I've been scared to overdo it. My cardiologist says, just listen to your body. And she asks, is there a heart rate max you could suggest? Which I know, obviously she's going to need to talk to her own cardiologist about her situation, but.
Yeah, I really recommend, again, if your insurance will pay for it, if you have insurance, if you can get your cardiologist to prescribe cardiac rehab, man, they do wonders because they monitor your heart. You can see when you do different things, how your heart goes. They monitor you with a really small, I think a 3-lead ECG, and give you, and you'll get a real good idea of how your heart reacts when you do different things. And they're going to say too much, not enough. And so to get that peace of mind, everybody here should, if you can afford it, if your insurance will pay for it and your doctor will prescribe it, even if they say, no, I don't think you do it, say, doc, I really want to go to cardiac rehab, force them and go to cardiac rehab. And they'll tell you, Mac, I think everybody's different. I had an ICD and it was set, and there's all sorts of mitigating circumstances. So talk to your cardiologist, get in cardiac rehab if you can.
And last, and I have a couple more slides to get to quickly, but Wendy, if you could talk for just 20, 30 seconds of, is it possible for people to get stuck in a certain phase of that anxiety, confusion, acceptance? And, obviously we're recommending that they find professional psychologists, professional help, but can people get stuck in a phase?
Sure, and it's usually fear that sticks us. So the best way out of fear really is to get support and be able to get help, whether that's it doesn't have to be a professional, it could be a friend and it could be a support person, but you need to talk through what it is that you're most fearful about and start to take action on it. And as you take action, you feel your courage and confidence building, and that just you become stronger and able to take a next step.
It builds your confidence, and getting back to everything Greg talked about what you can control, focusing on that.
Yes.
Again, thank you both so much for your time tonight. I have a few more important slides here I want to share with folks before everyone goes tonight. First, a great thanks to our generous sponsors, without whose help we couldn't bring you all of this amazing information. Their names and logos are there on the screen. Next. Again, to learn more about the DCM Foundation, please go to, and I'm sorry, this is missing a W. That must be my fault, www.dcmfoundation.org. Again, the resources we mentioned, the Insight Timer app. There is also an amazing movie and book, Mission Joy, or the Book of Joy. It's about Archbishop Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama having a conversation about how they find and focus on joy despite all of the challenges in life. I strongly recommend it. Take it out of your local library, watch it on Netflix. Great movie. Greg just reminded me about it, and I watched it the other night, and it was very moving. So follow us on all the social channels. We have regular updates there. Next. And this is super important. The next webinar is March 8th, Wednesday, from 6 to 7 p.m. And this is the launch of our Genetic Cardiomyopathy Awareness Consortium. This is huge. The topic of the webinar is cardiomyopathy and genetics. Get the facts and save lives. We have put together a team of more than 8 cardiomyopathy patient groups and 8 biopharma companies
In
to
the US and about 50 launching later in the year globally.
That's right. It's huge. It's going to be huge. US launch March 8th, and then the international launch will be this summer. And this is to highlight the role of genetics in cardiomyopathy and the need for genetic testing to increase awareness, advance research, and protect more families and save people's lives. We need more people to get tested because only 1% of people get tested presently. And it's estimated that as much as 50% of cardiomyopathies are a genetic basis cause. So this is huge. It's going to be huge. So invite your family, invite your friends, invite your doctors, your nurses, really get the word out. You'll be seeing a lot more about this, and the registration information will be on our website tomorrow. And I'll also send information via email. So thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you again to Greg, and thank you to Dr. Flowers. And thanks for all the great questions and all the wonderful patients and family members watching tonight. Keep the faith, keep the hope, and we'll all get through this together. So thank you again. Stay
Thanks,
safe.
everyone. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Stay healthy and happy.
Thanks so much. Take care now. And thanks to Heather behind the scenes. Okay, take care now. Bye-bye.